progress a little bit into the topic. Obviously, I don't think I'll be able to conclude everything about it, but we'll talk enough about it, inshallah, so that we leave you with some good food for thought over the next few weeks until I come back, inshallah, to continue. The Prophet ﷺ, in a famous hadith, will say, ثلاث مهلكات, three things will ruin you. شح مطاع وهوى متبع وإعجاب المرء بنفسه أو إعجاب المرء برأيه. So he talks about three things that will ruin you. And the last one that he points out, alayhi salatu wasalam, is إعجاب المرء بنفسه, of someone being quite fond and impressed by himself and by his ideas and his thoughts and stuff like that. So when I translate it that way, and I translated it that way specifically, you listen to it and you say, well, I mean, what's the problem of you being impressed by what you're doing? And in essence, or in theory, there's not a problem. It's really the root cause that exists behind. It's what's behind the scenes regarding this topic that's going to be more problematic. If you understand what vanity is, and you're able to balance it out of your life and remove it, and that pendulum stops swinging and just stays where it is, then yes, there'll be things that you say and do that you'll be like, that was pretty good. And other things that you say and do that you'll say, that wasn't very good. Meaning you'll start looking at your product as what you make, whether it's intellectual product or it's emotional or social or whatever it is, objectively, rather than with this heavy bias that comes with vanity, where everything I'm doing rocks. And it's great, and everyone should see it that way. And those who don't are haters. Like it becomes over focus on what I'm doing, on my contribution and the importance of it. And what I pointed out last week, and I think is the most important part of understanding ujub, is that what it actually is in its essence is claiming credit for your contribution towards the outcomes that you are dealing with in your life. It's claiming credit for your contributions to the outcomes that you have, especially the positive ones. Vanity really only exists when you're in a positive side, like when you are wealthy and healthy and things are working out for you. When it's the opposite, that's not what ujub doesn't necessarily work there. Well, not immediately at least. It works a bit later on, it's going to have an effect, and I'm going to point it out to you. But initially, where vanity comes in is when things are going well. And you claim credit for the outcomes that you have. You passed, or you graduated, or you got an award, or you made a lot of wealth, or you built something that is functional, or whatever it is. You did something that's actually quite successful and it's working. How much you put a lot of effort into this. How much of that effort can you claim that was purely yours, and you can use to claim to credit yourself for this outcome? How much of it? No one knows is the answer to that question. We don't know how much credit you can claim for the outcome. That's what Yawm al-Qiyamah is going to be about. That's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does. He decides how much to credit you for the good things that you got in your life, for the good things that you achieved in your life. He does that subhanahu wa ta'ala. أَلَمْ تَرَ إِلَى الَّذِينَ يُزَكُّونَ أَنفُسَهُم بَلِ اللَّهُ يُزَكِّي مَن يَشَاءُ وَلَا يُظْلَمُونَ فَتِيلًا. You see, the people who claim credit, yuzakkun here is not the good yuzakkun. It's not to purify. It's to give tazkiyah to something, as in to praise it, to give it praise and say that this is a good thing or this is a function. يُزَكُّونَ أَنفُسَهُم, they claim that they are good. They claim that they are. بَلِ اللَّهُ يُزَكِّي مَن يَشَاءُ. No, it's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who makes that judgment. Who says whether you are worthy of praise, whether your effort was credible for what you did. وَلَا يُظْلَمُونَ فَتِيلًا. No one will be mistreated Yawm al-Qiyamah. No one will lose any of their rights. You'll be treated well. So because of the fact you don't know, and you may say, well, I do know. And as I explained to you, nothing in Tazkiyah is going to invite you to lie to yourself. Well, I'll never do that. So if you're saying, but I know how much of my work can be. No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is how much of this is purely your willpower and your choices. And how much of it is the mix that you were given in this life. You're a recipe at the end. You and I, we're all recipes. There's a bunch of things that played in for us to be who we are. How much of that recipe is accountable for this outcome? And how much of it is just me, the work that I did specifically? the effort that I put in specifically? How much of it is the facilitation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala removing difficulties from my way and filling my heart with focus on a certain thing? How much of it was the upbringing of my parents, the environment I grew up in, the level of intelligence and skill set that I was gifted with the day I was born? The schools that I went to, the friends that I had, the teachers that took care of me, the mentors that looked over me. How much of it is that? Nobody knows. It's too complicated. So all you can do really is just put in your full effort and then praise the one who is worthy of praise for all of this. Take that spotlight and direct it towards the one who is the praiseworthy, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This najah is definitely attributable to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. How much of it is attributable to me? I don't know. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to attribute all of it to me, Yawm al-Qiyamah. That's what I hope for. That's what I go Yawm al-Qiyamah for, that inshallah He attributes the whole thing to me. But I can't make that judgment. So it changes the way you think about things. So instead of attributing this success to myself in dunya and making that very clear to everyone, I did all this, I don't know. I know that I must have done something. I don't know how much it is. I don't know if I'm worthy of praise for it. I don't know how much of it was just a recipe that I was given. So I'll leave that. I'll praise the one who's definitely worthy of praise for it, which is the Almighty. And I'll, Yawm al-Qiyamah, hope that inshallah He gives me reward for it, and that He sees that I'm worthy of praise for it to a certain degree, or to whatever degree He wants, subhanahu wa ta'ala. But when I look at someone else, because I don't know, when you achieve something, I don't know how much of your effort contributed to this. I don't know if you're fully attributable to this or not. What do? I do something called uhsin al-dhann. I have good assumptions. My good assumptions in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and in you is that inshallah you'll be fully attributed to this. So it's more of like a dua type of thing. It's more of, I don't know, and I have no reason to belittle you or belittle your effort. As far as I know, you could be fully, you could be someone who can claim full credit for this action. I don't know. Or it could be nothing. I don't know. I'm going to go with the other one. Of course I'm going to go with the other one, because that's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commanded me to do, to have husn dhann. I don't know. So I'm not lying to myself when I attribute the outcome to yourself, when I credit you with the outcome. I'm not lying. I'm just saying this is my good assumptions. I have no reason to assume the opposite. I have no reason to assume otherwise, so I'll assume that you did well. When it comes to me, I know that there's a lot of it was the recipe. I know that a lot of it was things, so I can't lie. There's no assumption involved. I know a lot of it was things that I didn't really contribute to. It's just a hand I was given. I looked at, you wake up to life and you're dealt a hand. Some aces and some duds. I know that a lot of what I have is just from the aces I was given. So I can't really, so I don't know. I know for sure that I'm ignorant of that. So I go with the lower estimation. Right? And that's what confidence and humbleness is. It's just going, I don't know. So I won't speak. I'm not going to speak out of line here. I'm not going to tell God what I'm credible for and what I've done. No, He's going to tell me that. As for you, there's no harm. It doesn't bother me. Like I said, Tazkiyah is something that you apply to yourself. You don't apply to others. If you apply this to others, then you've misunderstood what I say. What I'm saying. For others, it's not my job to be your muzakki. That's not my job. You did the job, you got the outcome, I credit you with it. That's it. I have nothing to do with your relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's not my problem, and I'm not supposed to be involved in that. Right? That's why it's important to remember this. When people do good jobs, you praise them for the jobs that they did and the outcomes that they have, and you learn from them. Tazkiyah is you looking at yourself and being honest with yourself. Right? And then they'll do whatever they're going to do. People will do what they want to do. It's not your job. It's not your job. Be very clear on this piece, please. Allah barik fiik. It's very important. It ruins it ruins your system. Because when you start taking this and applying it to others, you immediately turn into something that's avoidable in this dunya and repelling and arrogant and problematic. Because you're trying to apply things that you don't have knowledge of. You don't exist inside anyone's head or heart. So you don't know their reality. You don't know what life they've lived and how they feel about things. So it's not your job to go and project these things upon them. So they do a job, you just go by the causality. They did the job, they got the outcome, you praise them for it. Very simple. With yourself, you sit there and you be honest with yourself. What of this outcome was purely me, right? And what of it was all these circumstances in my life. It's very similar to the idea we're all in a race. I don't know, we're all starting from different places. So you can't judge because you don't know what you're dealing with and what you're working with. And because you don't know about that, what yourself, you don't claim credit. We'll talk about this a little bit more when we talk about arrogance in a few weeks. When we move on to the next piece, inshallah, because arrogance is the second one. I'll talk about that a little bit more there, and it'll be a bit more clear. Vanity is very specific in terms of the relationship you have with yourself. As we talk about vanity, I won't use other people because no one's involved. Vanity is something that you have, whether you have people around you or you don't. Arrogance requires the existence of peers. It requires the existence of a peer or even something, not necessarily a peer, something different that you can compare yourself to. Vanity doesn't require the existence of anybody. It's just how you see what you do and how you credit yourself with what you do and how you understand your experience in life and what you've done. So this takes me to talk about two important issues and then a third spin-off. So the first one is the issue of entitlement. Entitlement. A lot of vanity comes from entitlement, and it's actually it grows. Vanity doesn't flourish without entitlement. It requires it as a backbone. So people who are entitled become more and more vain. Like their vanity grows because of that entitlement. What does entitlement mean? In Arabic, it's istihqaq or shu'ur bil istihqaq. It's feeling that I deserve something. It's a feeling that I deserve X, Y, and Z, something, whatever it may be. And that's an important topic for each person, and a Muslim specifically, to tackle and think about. What is it that you deserve? What do you exactly deserve in terms of your relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and life? I'm not talking about when it comes to people. When it comes to people, you deserve to be treated with human rights, just like they do. That's what we deserve. We deserve to be treated fairly, and they deserve to be treated fairly. When we don't, we fight for it. And we don't stop until we get our rights. But I'm talking about your relationship with life, with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, with the world, just with existence, because that's a different thing. That's a very different thing. I'm talking about what hand you were dealt and what hand you are continuously being dealt as you go through life. I'm not talking about your specific relationships with people around you and how they treat you, a government or a company or a partner or peers or enemies. I'm talking about that. That you deserve to be treated fairly, and we'll talk about that when we talk about rahmah at the end of this module of self-value for sure. That's where this comes through in, and that's why it becomes very, very important. But here I'm just talking about your life. What is it that I deserve? So what can I turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and say He owes me? Right? What is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? What am I entitled to with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? This is a very important question. And every time I do this module, I actually ask, I just ask the question, I let people talk. And the majority of people have certain things that they believe that they're entitled to, right? The answer at the end is we're entitled to nothing. That's the answer, is we're entitled to absolutely nothing at all. Whatever we are owed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we are owed because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He holds Himself to a criteria. He holds Himself to something that no one can hold Him to. He holds Himself to it. And it is being fair and being just. And that there is reward, and that there is punishment, and that there is resurrection that comes before them. That's what we are entitled to from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And most of that, if you think about it, is akhirah. Right? Most of that is talking about akhirah. I want to put that aside for this discussion. I want to put this aside. What are you entitled to from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when it comes to dunya, to this life? I'm not talking about Yawm al-Qiyamah, because that's a whole different discussion. It's important to vanity, but I think before you talk about it, you have to talk about the first piece. What do I deserve from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in dunya? And that's where a lot of us don't necessarily fully understand this equation properly. And it's a problem of first world countries for sure. And even those who don't believe in God, they struggle with this because entitlement is not something that's necessarily connected with your belief in God. It's connected to your perspective and understanding of life and existing. And if you feel entitled, or you feel that you deserve to be given ease or peace or health or wealth or happiness or a fair shake in terms of achieving things, or you deserve that to be given equal to everyone that's around you, or to be given a chance, if you feel that you're going to be very, very, very upset throughout your life, because that's not the reality of how life works. And that's not the reality of what it means to be Muslim or to understand Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I'm not entitled to anything. The moment I was created and I was granted life, I was already granted life in a humongous amount of debt, because I have no way to repay the fact that I am alive. Just with the basic package of life. I'm not even talking about something that's special. I have nothing that I can possibly do that will make up for that which was granted to me. So anything that is given to me on top of being alive is just extra credit. It's just more generosity that's being shown to me. I am not entitled to anything else aside from the fact that I am here and I am capable of thinking. And if you're not capable of functioning and thinking, that you're not responsible or accountable to begin with, and nothing I'm saying applies to you anyway, so it doesn't matter. But if my brain is functioning and I'm alive, khalas, there's nothing else for me to feel that I'm entitled to or deserving of. Let me take this back a few steps to see if it'll help to use examples. No one likes people who are entitled, first of all. That's something that we all agree upon. We don't like entitled people. It's actually one of the biggest turnoffs in a relationship or in any form of relationship. Friendship, mentorship, or romantic. Any type of relationship, the person who's entitled is the worst person to be around. If they feel that they deserve something, or that they are entitled to something, or more than what it is that their rights are, then it becomes very difficult to deal with them. It's impossible to stay around them, and you don't like their company in general. And this is just a fact of being around. And people who are liked more in life are people who are less and less entitled. Like the people who are liked more are the people who are less entitled. I mean, they don't feel that they deserve much, and they're happy with what they've got, and they're just going along. Now, with that comes a fear of, I don't want to be a doormat, and I'm not saying that you should be. That's why when I talked about this at the beginning, I told you this is not about your relationship with people specifically, because you are entitled to your rights, you're entitled to huquq, not to be mistreated. But I'm taking this, I'm drawing the parallel with you and people, so I understand how it's supposed to be with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because if you don't like people who are entitled in your life, then you can imagine that that's a big problem for a human being to be entitled in the eyes of God, where you turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and you want more, and you feel like you deserve more. Why didn't this work out for me? Why didn't it work out? I made a lot of dua, I prayed my prayers, and I didn't get it. All right, so what's the problem? Why didn't I get it? I prayed and I did what I was supposed to do. So what is your understanding of this relationship? What, this is Aladdin's lamp? What do you think this is? That you can just pray, that you thought that praying and doing the right thing entitled you to a red carpet and what you wanted? You completely misunderstood this equation. That's why al-ujub is such a problem, because within it, underlying it, it is embedded in a completely false understanding of the relationship you have with God altogether. And if you have that in your mind, that, know what, I did the right thing. I didn't drink. I didn't do drugs. I didn't do that. When people were playing around, I was praying. When people were doing this, and I didn't get what I wanted. Why didn't I get what I wanted? I did everything right. Okay, you didn't. That's what happened. So what's the problem? If you feel like I deserve to get this, no, you didn't. No one does. And you're not entitled to it. And if that's how you understand things, I'm telling you, not only will this shake the foundation of your belief and your faith, it will also ruin your life and make you depressed and miserable and angry and just disgruntled about existence altogether, because you never understood it properly. Actually, the only thing that we are entitled to, or we are promised, is trials. That's all we're promised. I can only be entitled, and this word is not a good one for this specific example I'm giving. I can only say that I deserve something if I was promised it. Let's go with that, right? If you're promised something by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you can say, well, I deserve what I'm promised. You don't really deserve it, but you can ask for it because you were promised it. So what is it that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala promised that you can go and demand? I want my what you promised me. All of His promises subhanahu wa ta'ala are in akhirah. All of them. All of the promises of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala offers are in akhirah, meaning are after you die. There's almost no promise for people in this life, aside from two things. Number one, أَحَسِبَ النَّاسُ أَن يُتْرَكُوا أَن يَقُولُوا آمَنَّا وَهُمْ لَا يُفْتَنُونَ وَلَقَدْ فَتَنَّا الَّذِينَ مِنْ قَبْلِهِمْ فَلَيَعْلَمَنَّ اللَّهُ الَّذِينَ صَدَقُوا وَلَيَعْلَمَنَّ الْكَاذِبِينَ. Do people think that they're going to walk around saying we believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they're not going to be trialed and tested? Of course they're going to be tested and trialed. You are promised trials and tests and difficulties. You're promised that. That's a guarantee. You're going to get a certain amount of that as you go through life. That's number one. Number two, that if you do it right, you will have a life that is tayyibah, a life that has within it serenity, that has within it calmness. which is what I'm trying to teach here. This is what you're promised by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What I'm trying, the information that I'm conveying to you, and what it does for you if you accept it and you wrap your head around it, that's what you get. You get a life that has less anxiety in it, less depression in it, less difficulties. Not to say that there are certain situations where people have pathological levels of that require actual treatment. I don't connect mental health illnesses with lack of iman. I don't see that to be the rule. And I don't think it's correct. And I think if you do that, then you're making a mistake. And if you're telling people that, then you're making even a bigger mistake. So be very careful. But in general life, if you have the right understanding of it, it helps you cope better. You can deal with your difficulties in a much more calm way. You'll find much more serenity and tranquility when your comprehension of life is realistic and appropriate. But if it isn't, what ends up happening is that you're over worried about everything that's going to occur, and because you can't control most of it. You don't like people who are entitled, and you don't like children who are entitled. If you're a parent, the thing that you hate most in life is an entitled kid. And not only do you dislike your entitled kid, everyone around you, I guarantee you, hate your spoiled brat. No one likes them. Why? Because it just feels bad. It feels very upsetting to see someone who does not realize how much they already have, and they're feeling that they're entitled to even more. It's a musibah if they don't see how much they already have. Every father and mother have this problem. They walk into you walk into your kid's room, and you're like, I had none of this growing up, absolutely none of this, and I made sure you did so that you could enjoy it and you could do more with it, and you're doing less with it, and it drives you mad. And it actually puts barriers between parents and their children, and it ruins relationships. The problem is that the child does not have the ability. He doesn't have the ability to understand what it is you offer them because they have no comparison. You have comparison. You lived in a smaller house that was crowded with much less, and now you're living in something better. So you have comparison, so you feel very grateful for it. Inshallah, you do. Inshallah, if you're a good person, then or you're doing the right thing, that's what you're going to do. And if not, then you may feel entitled as well, and you're just like, so when you have a child in your home, and you are making sure that they go to the school, they have their own room, they have all the stuff that they need, they're being treated really well, and they're not grateful for it, and they're demanding more, and they're upset that they're not getting more, and they're actually upset and they're being rude to you because they're not getting more, that's when a father contemplates throwing a child out of a window. This is the moments where you're like, I don't need you. I can make another one of you. I can bury you in the backyard and make another one of you right now. They'll be more grateful. That's what, because it's extremely angry. Now, imagine Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala looking at you. No difference. Actually, the contrast is even bigger. Like if you can see the contrast between a father who's worked hard all his life to make something available for his family, and kids who aren't grateful and entitled and feel like they deserve more and are demanding that their father does this and does that and takes them here and does that for them, and you don't like that. Now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala looking down on me, I'm not going to say you, on me, the contrast is even bigger. It's even way bigger, because the father, what did you do to make this? What contribution did you put in to make this? No, nothing. What was it? It was a night. It wasn't even a bad. Allah created you from nothing. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created you. You weren't given birth to by it. No. The relationship of creation is much more intimate than giving birth, by far. Creation from nothing is more intimate and much more meaningful. And He gave you a lot of it. You have all this right now, and still you're upset. You're upset with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You're upset with life. You're disgruntled because you didn't get this additional thing. You didn't get this additional piece, right? I have to have this conversation often with young people, because as they are going through their lives and trying to achieve stuff, they fail. Part of being alive, you're going to fail. It's not going to work out. You're going to hit a wall. You're going to apply and get rejected. You're going to run into a problem where you didn't get what you want, and it's going to make you feel bad. And they come in and they're feeling depressed and they're feeling upset. And really, the conversation is more kind of making sure that they disassociate their self-value from this achievement, which is, nice and it's fun to talk about, but people rarely do it. But then I say, take a moment and just zoom out for a second. Just zoom out for a second and realize that your life that you have right now is the dream of 98% of human beings on this planet. Just zoom out for a second, understand that there's the majority of the people on this planet would do anything to have the cards that you are carrying right now in your hand. Right now, after you've had this horrible failure, after you've been rejected, or you lost some money, or you've gone into a break, you lost your relationship, or you did, whatever it was, whatever thing that went wrong that you feel embarrassed from and you're not happy with. Zoom out and start asking yourself, and this is not about the half full, half empty. I don't like that analogy. I think it's a silly analogy because you don't need it. Just think about your life. Forget about half and full and empty. What do you have right now? Right now. And just think about the little things that you got. And when you go through them, okay, and what do I not have? I don't have this thing here. What's the problem? Why can't I be functional? Why am I not grateful and thankful and happy? I didn't get this. I'm not saying celebrate your failures, ya Sheikh. No, of course you're going to feel upset when you fail. That's normal. That's natural. You put in effort, it didn't work out. You feel sad. Fine. Feel that sadness, and that's important. It's going to build your character, it'll make you stronger. But then being disgruntled and questioning God and questioning faith and losing connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and losing the momentum to be close to Allah, and losing belief in yourself, and losing confidence, and losing self-value over it is very puzzling. It's a puzzling thing, because what exactly are you doing? Anyone watching you from afar, any human being watching you from afar will find it pathetic because you didn't get this, because this little thing here, because of, look at it. The example of ujub is like saying that you're in debt, you owe $1 million, and you come up to your loaner, to the lender, and you stand there barking how you deserve another 1,000. وَأَنَا أَسْتَحِقُّ, and I am entitled to another 1,000. How silly do you? That's someone who needs a beating or jail time. If you're in debt and you haven't paid anything back and you're demanding more, and I deserve it and I'm entitled to it, and wake up, what are you doing? So when you're living your life and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has already given all this to you, and you didn't get this one here. You wanted this one, you didn't get it. So you're now all mad and upset. What are you upset about? It's a lack of understanding. That's what it is. Just like your child has a lack of understanding. You sit there looking at him, wondering what to do with him. What do I do with this kid? How do I teach this kid to be grateful and to value what they have? And because you start taking things away. Imagine this. You start taking things away from them. Imagine if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, every time you did this, took something away from you. Subhanahu wa ta'ala. He doesn't. Most of the time, He leaves you with the stuff, with the hope that you will realize and see that it's no different. Just like we don't want our kids to be entitled. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is asking you for the same thing. Don't be entitled. Don't allow your vanity to get the best of you and make you feel that you deserve this and you deserve more. It's life. It's nothing personal. It's just you were granted this hand, and here are the trials that are coming your way. Just get through them. Just stand your ground and continue to do the right thing, and don't get thrown off as you go through life. And inshallah, yawm al-qiyamah, things will work out nicely for you. You'll find something beautiful waiting for you. Just do that. Life is short, and it doesn't really, nothing materialistic will stay from it anyways. So it doesn't really matter. You're not going to take any part of it with you yawm al-qiyamah to begin with. So what are you really upset about? When you have this conversation with people, I usually have this conversation, they feel good for the moment. They actually get up energized, like, yep, jazakallah khair, I feel fine. And then the next day, they're depressed again. Why? Because it takes time. This understanding requires reinforcement that comes internally. Like you have to sit down and really think about it. Because it's the truth, it's the reality. It's not a lie. The reality is I'm already granted way more than I deserve or that I can ask, that I could ever ask for. As I am right now. I have maxed out. Anything extra is just a bonus that I'm grateful I got. I definitely don't deserve more. That mentality, if you live that way in life, you're capable actually of achieving more and more and more. And you go farther, and Allah gives you more. Why? Because you're grateful at all times for everything. وَلَئِن شَكَرْتُمْ لَأَزِيدَنَّكُمْ. Which is why the solution for vanity is gratitude and hamd, which is what I talked about, and I'll talk about that a little bit more. All right, the second piece that I want to point out here is the managing of expectations. So here's the same thing. It's connected to entitlement. I just want to bring it from a little bit of a different angle. Same idea. What are your expectations of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? What expectations do you have of God, right? What expectations do you think you're allowed to have of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to begin with? Because we all have, because expectations in life are important. They actually dictate the degree of satisfaction that we have in our lives. For example, in a marriage, it's very important that expectations are set appropriately at the beginning in order for this relationship to work. In order for the spouses to be happy and to be satisfied and to enjoy this, they have to set their expectations. What do you expect from me on these fronts? Financially, socially, domestically, spiritually, physically. What do you expect? And then you have to listen to what I expect from you. Because people who don't meet each other's expectations make each other miserable. So, let me give you an example. You may run into someone who is doing more than you ever thought was possible, yet the people around them aren't happy with them. Their spouse or their parents. And you start wondering, how is this possible? And the reason is, it's not what they're doing, it's the expectations of the person in front of them. So the person with high expectations is always going to be miserable. He's always going to be miserable. And he's always disappointed if you have high expectations. And if you have low expectations, you're almost always happy, right? I believe that we have this equation wrong. Like it's important to have it, but we're not using it correctly. When it comes to people, you have to have moderate expectations, balanced ones, appropriate ones. For your children, you have to have expectations, or they don't, especially boys, or they don't grow up, they don't fulfill, they don't grow and get better if their fathers don't give them expectations of how they're going to behave. Normal, that's normal. But if the expectations you have of them are too high, then you set them up for failure and they don't go very far. And if you have expectations of them that are too low, then they become underachievers and they get lazy. Right? So you have to get the right amount. When you have relationships at work, for example, that has to be well defined so that you can function as an employee or an employer and everyone can do their job appropriately. If you're asking too much of people, then they will hate you and resent you. And if you ask too little, then you actually won't get the money that you're paying for. You get back your return. In marriage, very important, both sides have to agree. What's expected of me? And then before they get into marriage, they have to say, well, your expectations are way too high for me. I can't do that. I'm not doing that. I will never do that. Right? And it actually breaks people. It breaks both men and women. I've seen it in men because I talk to men more than I talk to women. A man who has been expected to do more than he's doing his best, but his best is not enough because he expects more. He always feels belittled. He's miserable. He's not happy. And he's not functional. Same thing. I know it goes the other way. For sure it goes the other way. A husband who has high expectations of his wife, more than what she's capable of doing, then she's going to feel the same way. When expectations are compatible, which is why marriage has to be done appropriately. You have to bring people who know what they're talking about, help the two individuals set their expectations appropriately of one another. So the question, that being said, that's how you do it in life, right? My advice to you, aside from just advice to you, lower your expectations in life of people. Wallahi. Khudha min lihyati. You live better. Just lower your expectations from people. You are so much more satisfied in life when you have no expectations of people. Because anything they do is a bonus. Because I was expecting nothing. If you have high expectations, they continue to disappoint, you get upset. That's why in marriage, the person who's happy is the person who has low expectations. That's why the Quran, when it talks about marriage, for example, it's just the man has to provide and protect, she has to be loyal and protect the household. That's it. That's it. Nothing else. Everything else are bonuses. She cooks, Allah yajzihal khair. He takes her out for Allah yajzihal khair. It's all extra stuff that's being offered because expectations are very simple and they're very low. This is a different topic altogether. I'm just saying it makes a big difference in what we set. So when it comes to people, in order for you to avoid vanity, expect very little, so you can and expect a lot from yourself. Expect a lot from yourself. That's where expectations should be high. It's from me, because I know what I have and what I can do, and I know the potential that was put in me. That comes from the confidence that you have. Remember when we talked about that pendulum right in the middle, the opposite of vanity is you're confident in what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave you. So you expect a lot from yourself because you're confident, and you hold yourself to a high bar. But when it comes to your relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you have no expectations. You have no expectations. You have a lot of hopes. You have good assumptions. You make a lot of dua. Dua is the word that we use instead of hopes and assumptions that in our deen. Like these are words that are used in general. What we have is dua. We make a lot of dua. We ask Him for everything, subhanahu wa ta'ala. But I have no expectations. Meaning I don't expect that He's going to give me what I want and do what pleases me. No, I don't expect that. I expect Him to do whatever He wants to do, subhanahu wa ta'ala, in His divine wisdom. And for as long as I try to please Him, that He subhanahu wa ta'ala will show me a way to stay on path. That's it. And that is always going to be there for you. That in your life, you'll always have that, if that's what you're looking for. Anything else you expect from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala means you've already ruined the relationship. We've already brought in su'ul adab. We've brought in some degree of rudeness. Then we've given me all of this has been offered, and I expect more. Based on what do I expect more of Him? Based on what do I expect more of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Based on what do I have? What bargaining chip am I using? What contract am I depending upon? What exactly is it that makes me feel that I can expect things from Him subhanahu wa ta'ala? I expect Him to take care of this piece and take care of that piece and make sure I get married to the right person and make sure I get a good job and make sure that I live long enough to see my grandchildren. Yeah, this is just entitlement. And it's embedded and rooted in vanity and feeling that somehow I deserve more. And I am, I'm great and I should have all these things because I'm. So what am I? Right? It comes down to defining what really are we. The whole point of this module at the end of it is to say, so what exactly are we? And how are we supposed to see ourselves? And all of this that I'm doing for the last 8 weeks and for the next 8 weeks when we come back will just a build up to say, okay, what exactly am I? But you can't do that unless we have all of this taken care of. Unless we've talked about this so you have some degree of understanding of it, it's not worth doing that. You have to start asking yourself that question. Because the way you see yourself, and the way you see yourself in contrast to the world, to the universe, and to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is what's going to dictate the algorithm that you will use to function, and how satisfied you will be, and what attitude you will use, and what perspective you will carry, and how far you will go, and how you'll deal with difficulties and successes. All of that defines you, right? And that doesn't come just from nothing. It comes from how you understand everything. And Islam, in its essence, is that. Islam is a narrative, a way of understanding the world, understanding yourself, understanding Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the relationship that you have with all of them. And if you get that right, then suddenly you're. Ujub is just a byproduct of not having that. Letting your nafs dictate what the relationship is going to look like. Your nafs is mammalian. It's all about survival. It's all about superiority. It's all about longevity within this dunya. It doesn't care about anything else. So if you let that, imagine you let that dictate your relationship. Watch documentaries on animals. Especially the ones that talk about primates, like chimps and orangutans and gorillas and stuff. I'm serious. You should watch these things because you get to see the mammalian piece of you occurring in front of you, like within real life, because they don't have the cognition that you have, and they don't have the guidance that you have. So they're just running on that nafs. That's all that's running. That's all that's functioning there. Children, you can also watch children. Watch children interact. But watch them like in depth interacting with each other and how they feel and how they say and what they do. And these are just nufus running around, trying to fit in, trying to prove themselves, trying to get ahead, trying to get more, trying to take more, trying to survive, trying to get. And you see that are we going to allow that to dictate the relationship we have with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? The reality is that most of the time we do. We may not say that we do, but deep down inside it is. It's based on it, which is why I'm talking about entitlement. I'm talking about expectations. Because where do these come from? They come from an exaggerated ego, an understanding of the self that is beyond what it's supposed to be seen as, leading to all of these problems, leading to a feeling that I deserve more and I expect more, and no, it's not safe that way, and it's not correct. And even if you're not religious, nothing I'm saying, by the way, here requires you to be Muslim to understand. You could be someone who's completely anti-faith, and this would apply to you the same. Because when we talk about your relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you say, okay, you don't believe in God. Well, let's talk about your relationship with the universe. You're still going to get what you're going to get in life. You're still going to get from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala what you're going to get. Whether you believe in Him or you don't, it's still going to come your way. And if you don't have the proper understanding of how to deal with it, then you're going to be miserable. That's why there's a discrepancy here. There's a discrepancy. Muslims who don't understand this will react to the world and deal with the world more poorly, much more poorly, than a non-believer in God who understands these things better. By far, hands down. By far, like for sure, 100%. These things, these pieces that we're talking about, these basics, if someone doesn't believe in God at all, but accepts them as realities, yes, I can't really expect much. If you don't believe in God at all, you can't really guarantee anything, expect anything. It's not that different in terms of how you see the world. If you have these things clear, you're not entitled, you don't have high expectations, you accept life as it comes to you, you're confident and humble, then you will deal with life and the difficulties of life and the fluctuations of life much more maturely and much better than a Muslim who doesn't understand any of it. And I've seen that a lot. I see that all the time. I see that in myself and others, and that's why this is so important that we talk about, that we have to bring this, because we have to ground ourselves in this as Muslims. We really have to understand it. It's what the Quran taught at the beginning. قَدْ أَفْلَحَ مَنْ زَكَّاهَا قَدْ أَفْلَحَ مَنْ تَزَكَّى. The Quran at the beginning, when it first talked about things, it talked about these concepts and the importance of not being mukhtal and fakhur, right? Not having these problems, these bad attributes that reflect poorly on our functionality and our levels of satisfaction and our closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The third piece, the spin-off piece that I want to add to you, is to talk about the concept of mediocrity. I think this plays really nicely into vanity, and it helps us understand it a little bit more. What do I mean by mediocrity? Vanity deprives you from the ability to actually reach your potential. So when I talked to you about what the proper way of understanding self-value was maybe 5-6 weeks ago, we talked about that the proper way to see self-value is that it is something that is divinely granted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It does not fluctuate, it's constant amongst all of us, it's equal, and it's based on the potential that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala puts in you in achieving the highest ranks of Jannah. It's the potential that you have. And if you have confidence in that potential, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put it in you, that you have that potential in you, regardless of who you are and where you come from, and it's equal to the potential of everyone else in terms of going close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and making it to Ala Jannat al-Na'im, then your self-value will become constant. So it's the confidence in that potential. So we talk about mediocrity here. What ujub does is it deprives you from being able to achieve that potential. Like it doesn't let you do it. The reason being is that in order for you to figure out that potential, you have to try your absolute best. Like you have to really put your full effort into something. But most people never do that. Most people don't do it, and if they do it, it takes them a long time to figure out the courage to do it, or they have to be individuals who either don't listen to criticism whatsoever, or somehow have grown up in a background where it doesn't bother them, the feedback that they get. But what ujub does is that it makes it hard for you to invest your totality in the work that you do. Because if you invest your heart, everything that you have in something, you're vulnerable now. This is a vulnerability. I put everything I've got into this place, into this work, into this product. Now, so that's the best you've got. Yes. So now I can judge the best of you. You're vulnerable now. Now you're vulnerable because someone can come and judge the best you've got and say that it wasn't that good. If you accept early on in life that we're all pretty much mediocre, because mediocrity is just saying average. And what is the average? It's what most people are, and I'm most people. So that's what I'm going to be. That makes sense? The idea that I have to be more than mediocre is kind of weird. Let me explain. If there's 1,000 people, they have an average, right? Something that is what most people have. If you feel that you should be higher than average, then you're saying to yourself, "Oh no, I'm like you're already dealing with an inflated ego just by the idea that I know I can't be." Mediocrity is just saying that this is what most people are capable of doing. This is what the run-of-the-mill is, right? Why am I am run-of-the-mill. I'm just an average Joe, as everyone else. So yes, when I put my full effort into something, it's going to be mediocre. But if I'm too vain to accept that about myself, if I'm too vain, then one of two things. Either I'll put my full effort into something, and declare it to be the best thing that's ever been done. Declare it to be the best product, the best negotiation, the best deal, the best. It's the best thing. And I don't care what anyone, because it's the best, because I did it, it's the best. By default, because I'm the best, this is the best too, and that's the end of the story. And if you don't like it, then you're a hater and you're a problem. It's your problem. Or, right, I accept, or I accept that I wasn't very good. And vanity doesn't, I don't want to believe that about myself, that I'm actually not that great. And it hurts. And if I've invested my ego into the work, meaning I put my self-value into this work, then when it's being criticized and it says, actually, this is not good, this wasn't done very well, this wasn't written clearly, this has to change, effort, then my pendulum starts to swing to the left and I start to feel less about myself. So how do I protect myself from that? Either I don't listen or I don't put in my full effort. That's what most people do. What most people do is that when given the opportunity, they only invest a part of themselves, just a part, safe enough so that if it doesn't work, you can say, well, I didn't really try that hard. I didn't try that hard to begin with. I didn't have enough time. I was too busy. I didn't put my full focus and attention on it. That's the defense mechanism. I don't want to be vulnerable and say that I tried my best and this is all I could do, because that's putting myself out there, right? If you don't have vanity, if you don't have ujub, if you don't have this problem, then you have confidence in your potential, not in your work, in your potential. So you put your full effort into something. You invest and you actually welcome the critique, because you know going in that most likely it's going to be mediocre. Because I've never tried it before. I haven't done a lot of it yet. I don't have the skill set. I have not improved it yet. So it's here. What needs to happen? You take that, and then you use it to improve the work, and then with time, it gets better. Every person, by the way, who does that improves. Every person, you're never going to get it right from the first time around. Like, you don't nail it from the first try. You have to try many times. But those tries, if they are not soaked in the wisdom of the people who are looking at it, offering you guidance and telling you what went right and what went wrong, then you'll just keep on repeating the same mistakes until the end of time, which is what happens most people, that's how they live. It's the same problem, same fall, same mistake every time. Because our learning curve as human beings is quite slow. It's not as quick as we think it is. Like, we take a while to learn. But then if people come and critique and tell, change that, then we get better really quickly. But it's hard to hear that if you've invested your ego in the work, which is why I put up there. The way to change it is to invest your emotions, your heart. You put your heart into the work, not your ego. I put all of my emotions. I mean, I put all of my love into the work. I put all of my effort and time into the work, but not my ego. I don't attach my self-value to it. And then when it's critiqued, I take back, and I try again. I fix it, and I try again, and I keep on doing that until the product that I put out actually gets better and better and better, and then it's actually pretty good. You don't stay mediocre forever. You go up. But you have to accept that at the beginning, you most likely are. Your best is probably not that good. Be okay with that. Be okay with that. That ujub doesn't let you do it. Ujub makes you scared. Ujub vanity takes away your bravery to put yourself out there and say, this is the best I could do. And people judge it. And it's not that great. And you have to go back and try again. It takes away that bravery. So you want to play it safe. Either you try your best, but then you ignore everyone. That means you'll never grow. Nothing will get better. Nothing will improve. Or you only put a small amount. You can still learn from a small amount, right? But it's going to take much longer. Much, much longer. Because you're only investing a little bit, enough to protect yourself and say, I didn't really try that hard. That way I don't have to feel bad. Most students in school, that's what they do. Boys, as they grow up, that's what they do. That's why boys are always trying to be clowns. Humor is just a defense mechanism. That's all it is. Humor is just a way for you not to share a genuine thought that could be judged. That's all it is. It's just a method for me not to show what I'm actually thinking and share it, and then have it critiqued by someone else, and then feel bad about myself. So I'll just goof around. Because I don't care if you judge my goofing around, because it's not even, doesn't matter. I'm not trying. I don't care about what you're asking me to do. I don't care about this activity. I'm going to make fun of it because I'm not going to. It's not because these kids don't want to learn. It's not because they don't know. It's because they're not ready to actually put the effort of putting together, creating an original thought, putting it out there, and having someone else say, that was wrong. Here's how you're supposed to look at it. So we avoid that with humor. That's all it is. I always tell people, don't get upset when you're always joking around. It's not that they don't respect you. It's just they don't want to feel vulnerable. They don't want to put themselves out there and say and have the world see the genuine, original product of what they are. Because our ideas and our thoughts are very valuable to us. Very important. They're the most important thing. Well, it's more important than money to us. You may not know, you may not realize that, but it is for you. Even your nafs, it's very that is so you. The most, I'll tell you this from a competitive perspective. Here's from a competitive perspective. This is actually a study that was done. It's not even my experience, even though it is my experience, but I'll tell you it's a study that was done. The most difficult losses in sports are the solo games, the competitions where it's just one-on-one. So like tennis and table tennis and stuff like that. It's more difficult than the losses that you have, for example, like in the World Cup. It's much less because what you can do is just say, oh, it wasn't me. It was everyone else. Everyone else, but not me. It wasn't. You tried your best, you lost. So you're very vulnerable. So it wasn't me. If everyone did as well as I did, we would have won. So it's all the other guys. So you kind of dilute that feeling of mediocrity and lack of accomplishment and lack of strength. Your vanity, you can dilute it by saying it's everyone else. But when you play a one-on-one sport, a single sport, whatever that may be, it's much more difficult to do that. Right? So, but it's easier. But you can always blame bad knees or bad whatever. The most difficult sport to lose by far is chess. By far the most difficult sport to lose. And I know that. I competitively played for years. It is the most. I learned a lot from Tazkiyah in my life. Nothing comes close to losing a chess tournament. Nothing comes even remotely close. Wallahi, all of it was just talk until I lost a chess tournament. Because you sit there and it's his brain beating yours. That's it. There's nothing. It doesn't matter if you have diarrhea. It doesn't matter if it doesn't. Nothing matters. Like it doesn't matter. There's nothing to blame. It's just his brain was stronger, quicker, and better than yours was, and you have to accept that. That the best game you played was not good enough for you to get what you wanted. So it's an extremely important learning moment. I invite everyone to learn the game and go lose a tournament and accept that and deal with that reality that you tried your best and it was mediocre. Because we really value our minds and we value our the way that the thoughts that we have. And because of that, when you're asked to give it your best shot, most of the time you don't really want to. And we think it's laziness, we think it's procrastination, we think it's not. So most of the time it's not wanting to feel vulnerable. It's not wanting to put out our best and then be told that your best needs a lot of work. But it does. And it will stay that way until you get rid of your vanity. And you are willing to invest everything you have in the work that you do. And take the criticism and feedback that comes with it and grow. And be brave about it. The way I describe this is investing your heart, not your ego. If I take my ego and I put it in my work, then anytime you criticize it, you're criticizing me. And I become defensive, and I become protective, and I don't respect it anymore. And when you say bad things, you swing my pendulum, because I attach my self-value to this work. You remove your ego and your self-value, you snip it off, and it's not, and then suddenly it doesn't bother you anymore. I actually want you to give me feedback, because what I care about is the work getting better. How does the work get better? Someone has to look at it and say, that didn't work, fix it, so I fix it for next time. And then it gets better and better, and the work is benefiting, rather than my self-image being what I'm after. Does that make sense? This is a really important piece. So mediocrity, one of the problems we have in this world, and trying your best, it just comes from a place of vanity, where you're a bit too vain. So having this conversation sometimes with young people actually makes a big difference. And I've had some of them in the past, and I've seen people actually go out on a limb and try, and they'll struggle with it for a moment because they'll get criticized, and it'll hurt them for a second. It'll burn, right? But that burn is very, very character building. It's very therapeutic. It's helpful. Accept it. Be okay with it. Be okay with it. That doesn't mean if you've learned that your value, your self-worth is constant, and then it exists in the confidence that you have in the potential, then it won't bother you over time. And I've seen people like that. I've dealt with people like that who don't have it doesn't bother them. They'll put in their full effort, and they'll actually come and solicit. No, tell me, I know there's something wrong. Because we don't even like Canadians, we don't like giving feedback that's not, praise and applause. We don't, and that's a problem, obviously, and it's reflecting now on the quality of the work that's happening in every field of life. Because we have to, at best, you're going to sandwich it. I've heard the sandwich it. At best, you're going to say something that they did well, and then a problem is something they did well, right? What if they did nothing well? Then what? Those people actually never get feedback. They just get fired. Or they don't know why. And they grow up and like, I don't understand why I'm not getting hard, why I'm not getting well, because no one actually sat with you and said, you suck. Like you absolutely, everything, you have it all wrong. Like everything you're saying and thinking is wrong, and you need to go back and say, but no one told you because no one had the heart to say that to you. And now you're floating around in life, not understanding why you can't seem to make friends or to hold a job or to succeed in your work, because no one sat with you at some point and said, the majority of what you're doing is not correct. We have to help you fix it, right? And I prefer that, in your life, don't be cruel, but with younger people, try your best to help them, because they need to feel that at some point. They have to, and be there to, but do it in a way that's kind. Do it in a way where you have their best interest in mind, so you're not trying to hurt them. But if you're not capable of telling them that you're not doing well, this is not the right way, there's a lot missing here, then they'll never learn, and they'll never grow. And they will be, basically you're condemning them to decades of this before they can finally figure it out. However, had someone pointed it out to them maybe 20 years before, you'd have saved them all this agony and all this failure and all these difficulties. And you see it all the time, Will. It happens all the time. I know for a fact you've run into someone who's wondering why something isn't working out, and you know exactly why it's not working out, and you don't say it. Like you know exactly why this is not working out for them. It is right, for sure, but you're not going to say it. You find it difficult. And this person goes around genuinely wondering why it's not happening, and you're like, I know, I can tell you exactly what needs to change and how it will work. But people aren't willing to do it, even to offer it. No, I don't. No, I'm not here to talk about how to offer it, because that's not the point. But what I'm here to talk about is that you yourself, if you don't want to be someone like that, because you don't want to be that person, do you? Where everyone seems to know the problem but you. Do you want to be that? Vanity will be the blinds that in front of your eyes if you don't remove it. Your vanity will literally blind you from being able to see your own flaws and your problems and accepting feedback from others and growing. And people grow into that and they get stuck with it. And I remember as a kid sometimes seeing an older person talk about problems and just wondering to myself, I'm pretty sure I have like all your solutions. If you give me 5 minutes, I'll break down why nothing is working for you, like pretty easily. I can see it. Even as a child, you can see a lot of these things. But why can't they see it? Well, aside from a problem with their self-honesty, which is what we talked about in the last module, it's also really embedded in a seed of vanity, where it just takes away their ability to see that they weren't doing well, because they can't believe that that's the piece. They can't believe that's the piece. There's a psychological, there's a experiment. Back in the 60s and 70s was such, oh my God, those were good days. They were able to do a lot of psychological trials, and because there weren't a lot of regulations around these things, they did stuff that today would not be appropriate and would be seen to be unethical. They don't use these studies anymore because they're unethical. They don't use them, but they do exist, and so do their results. And I can't help but to read some of this stuff and wonder. They did this trial, this experiment where they would, I think there's like maybe 50 or 60 people. And they would let them know that something happened that they had predicted, or that it didn't happen, but that they had predicted, or they had talked about, right? And I think it was 90% of the people, that the moment it was shared with them that what they had happened, their response was, I knew it. All along, I've been thinking about this the whole time. I knew that was going to happen. Immediately, that was the immediate response to the information that was offered to them. And then when they're told later that actually didn't happen, that's why it's unethical, because you're lying to people. You're not allowed to do that in these experiments. They don't really have a response. Like they fumble because. But what it showed for the experimenter is that this is an actual mindset that a lot of people go through life being told you're not doing very well, but holding on to the belief that they are. and that everyone else is wrong, and that at some point I'm going to be able to prove that I was right. At some point I'm going to be able to prove that my initial theory that had no wisdom behind it, no revelation behind it, no experience behind it, no evidence to support it, it just came from my mind, is the right one. And even though everything is telling me that it's not right, and I'm sitting there accepting that kind of, in a way that I'm just, all right, fine, I can't prove it yet, but deep down inside I'm like, one day I'll prove that I was right, even though everything is telling me is wrong. That we have the ability as human beings to do that. And why we do that is because we are attached our self-value to this thought, and we're too vain to get rid of it. We attach our self-value. So we have to continue to believe that this thought is correct on some level to maintain that pendulum swinging to the left, right a little bit. And if you completely take that away from us, then you swing it to the left and you break me because I invested my ego into the thought that I'm carrying. If you learn to disconnect your ego from your thoughts altogether, then thoughts become much more flexible. You can think of something, it's wrong, you get rid of it. You think of something else, you build on it, and you change it a little bit. And then your thoughts actually grow really quickly. So when we talk about bias, for example, in science, or bias in relationships, or bias in anything, bias is really just that. It's just I invested something in this thought, so I'm going to hold on to it. Even though you're telling me, you're showing me numbers to say that it's wrong, I'm going to keep on believing it. I'm not going to tell you, because I don't want to have to, I can't argue it, I can't defend it, but deep down inside I will. And given the opportunity, I will cash in. I knew it! I was right all along. No, you weren't. That's what you thought, isn't it? That's what you've been thinking the whole time. That thought is harming you. That way of looking at things is harming you. What is a Muslim? A Muslim is someone who pursues haqq. That's a Muslim. He pursues haqq, not validation of his own thoughts. Not ways to prove that his way of seeing things or her way of things was the right way. A Muslim is someone who pursues the truth, righteousness, is willing to ditch everything they ever believed in life to follow the truth and what is right. Not to hold on to their thoughts hoping at some point someone will validate them. That's not what we're here to do. I am not here to look within Islam for the stuff that suit my theory of existence. I am here to change my theory of existence to that which Islam teaches. And those are two very, very different things. I run into it all the time because of what I do. And I know those who are listening because they want to learn stuff. They want to challenge their thoughts to learn. And those who are just here because so far I haven't said anything that contradicts what they truly believe. And the moment I do, there goes a few hours of my life. There goes 2 hours of my life just arguing with them, and then they stop coming altogether because I didn't agree with them. So it's very different. And I'm not saying I'm always right. No, I'm often wrong. I'm often changing my thoughts and my beliefs and things all the time. It's a way of growth. But everyone has to be of that same mentality in order for us to grow. And what stops you from doing that is vanity. So what do you do with vanity? You replace it. You replace the need for it. And I said the need for it here, and I don't have time to explain what I mean by that. It's not really replacing vanity. You can't replace vanity. Vanity is always going to be a part of your nafs. It's always going to be there. Some degree of it is going to be stuck there, and you're going to have to kind of deal with it. But the need for it. I need that to be able to function. I need to feel more about myself so I can get up in the morning and go to work. So I can actually replace the need for that with your confidence in the potential that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put inside of you. It's confidence in Allah, really. I know that you created me. And because you're the one who created, because it's you, I know that you put the potential within me to do things have khair and that are good, that will take me far, Yawm al-Qiyam. I know that you've done that. And I know that no one can take that away from me. And I know that I don't have less of a chance to make it to Jannat al-Firdaus than anyone around me. We all have the exact same chance. What I may have to do may be different than what you have to do, but I have that chance. And that confidence I have in the potential of me making it keeps me nice and sane. I don't need to feel vain because I have that. And gratitude. And feeling grateful. You get rid of that need, that problem of vanity, by feeling grateful. By taking all of that focus of praise, instead of directing it towards yourself, I need to be praised. And I praise and if I praise Him, subhanahu wa ta'ala, then inshallah He will also, Yawm al-Qiyamah, praise me. And you replace this disease, this problem, this issue of understanding life with that confidence and that gratitude. And then I can guarantee you things will change heavily. There will be a change in your perspective and the way that you live that will almost make you feel unrecognizable to your previous self. And it's something worthwhile to think about. I will elaborate on this point, inshallah, when I come back in a few weeks. Take this take what we discussed today as food for thought, inshallah, for the next few weeks, and we'll resume once I'm back, inshallah, towards the end of July. Subhanakallah, bihamdik, shadu la ilaha illa ant, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk, wa sallallahu wa sallam wa baraka ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Jazakumullah khair, barakallahu feekum. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi.